Colleen, I have the New York Times bestseller list from this week. Your books are highlighted. If you notice, you kind of dominate it. Do you ever feel bad for the other authors?
Well, honestly, I was relieved to see there were 5 on there this week because there have been like 6 and 7, and I'm like, okay. No, it's such an amazing feeling and a little confusing.
When you first started writing in 2012, could you ever have imagined this?
Absolutely not. Oh my gosh, no. Like, my goal was to, I hope I write a book someday. And that's as far as it went. I just wanted to sit down, get an idea, write a book. Maybe someone would read it. Actually thinking about having a book that was on the New York Times was not even, in my brain.
It's beyond your wildest dreams.
Beyond.
Okay, so take me back to your childhood. When did you know you wanted to write?
Since I can remember, since before I knew how to write or read, my sister, who was about 3 years older than me, learned how to read and write before I could. And I remember she came home one day and wrote our address on our bedroom wall. And I was so jealous because I'm like, oh my gosh, you know how to do that. I want to know how to do that because I just had all these stories I wanted to tell. And I was just super excited to start school and start kindergarten. Like, I remember this and remember being excited to learn the alphabet. And so it took a long time. Like, I was very disappointed that I didn't get to write my first story the first day of kindergarten.
But you did write it a year later?
Yeah, I was still 5, so I might have been in kindergarten. My first story I ever wrote was called Mystery Bob, and it was about this investigator who was looking for 5 golden rings. That's all I remember about it. And then years later, my sister cleaned out the filing cabinet to make space for all her awards in high school and threw away all our old stories. So I still tease her about that because I'm like, man, can you imagine if I still had my stories I wrote when I was 5 and 6 years old? But yeah, a long time coming.
You always wanted to do it. So talk to me about, but it took a little bit of time till you started writing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about why you chose to go into social work and why you were hesitant really to write.
Yeah, so I started college thinking I was going to go into journalism. It was a very hard major, props to you for being a journalist. But I realized early on that I needed to feed my children because I started having kids young. I married young. And so I was in college while I was a mom and working full time. And I thought, wow, I need a career that's more practical around where we live. And so I majored in social work and did that and loved it. Did that for several years and kind of got the idea of writing for a career out of my head. And so when I was 31, I started writing stories for fun, and one of them turned into a book. And then that's when everything started with this career. Completely unintentional, but so glad that, I kind of let go of thinking I had to do it for work and looked at it more as a hobby. And I still try to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's just fun for you.
Fun, yeah. I try not to make it, try not to focus on like, I need to write this many words a day, this many books a year. Like, I still only write when I'm feeling creative and in the mood to write.
And find the joy.
Right. I want it to remain joyful for me and remain a hobby. I don't want to start to resent it in any way because I get so much love doing it.
So in 2012, you self-published Slammed, and you put it on Amazon really so your grandma could read it.
Yes.
Okay, talk about that.
So that was around Christmas time when I had finished writing it, and I wasn't even looking at it as like a book. I was like, I wrote this long story. I wanted everyone to read it, my sisters and mom, and had read it, and so we'd bought my grandmother a Kindle for Christmas. It was right when Kindles came out, and I was researching on Google how to get a document onto a Kindle and came across Amazon's self-publishing platform. And I was like, I could just load it up here, this Word document, and it will show up as a book on Amazon, and then she can download it. And so that's what I did, and the book ended up on Amazon with just an Amazon like basic cover, like they had templates you could use, and then my grandmother downloaded it. Well, then my sisters started telling everyone else, like, hey, my sister wrote this book. It's free right now. You can read it. And after 2 days of having a book on Amazon for free, they make you charge for it. And so then other people just still kept buying it. Like someone would read it and they would tell someone else to buy it. And 4 months later, it hit the New York Times as a self-published novel. And here we are.
And when that happened?
That was in May of 2012.
Were you surprised?
Yes. Astonished. I thought it was a joke. I found out when I was at work that it was going to be on the New York Times the following week. And I hung up the phone and I'm like, that can't be right. That cannot be right. And I remember waiting. I didn't even tell anyone I worked with that day. And I went home and told my mom and my husband, and I'm like, I don't know if this is real. And so we actually waited until it came out on the New York Times before telling anyone because I was in such doubt.
So in 2012, when you published that book, talk about what your life was like. And
oh my gosh. It was a lot like it is now, but so very different. I had a job that I loved. I had coworkers I loved working with. But we were very poor. We lived in a single wide trailer house. We didn't have a front doorknob. We had a washcloth where the doorknob went. Like just very, very poor. And but very happy. Like, I'm still with my husband. I've been with him since I was 16, and we had 3 boys, and we lived a great life. We just struggled a little bit financially, And I feel like other than that, my life is pretty much the same. I just get to do what I love to do and get paid for it. But I'm still surrounded by the same wonderful husband, wonderful sisters, my mother. And I actually took the employees that I worked with at my old job, and they work with me now here. So we're all still together all these years later. So I feel like I'm just very, very lucky to be surrounded by people that make me very happy.
It seems like that's sort of the key to happiness. People could think, oh my gosh, all over the New York Times bestseller list,
right.
Famous author, people recognize you, but that's
right.
not what brings you joy.
That's not what brings me joy. I mean, obviously I love to write, and I would be doing that whether they hit the New York Times or not. I started doing it for fun, and I would continue to do it for fun. But yeah, absolutely the happiness in my life comes from the people that surround me.
I know that your earliest memory of something that happened with your mom really has inspired so much of the themes that you write about.
Right.
And it was unintentional, and I know if you could take back that memory, you probably would.
Right.
But talk about that.
So my mother and father divorced when I was 2, and one of my earliest memories was him throwing a TV at her. Like, we grew up in an abusive household up to that point. My older sister saw more of it than I remember. But I don't know how she did it with 2 young girls. And, as hard as it was back then, there were no resources for women to leave situations like that. But she was able to get out of that relationship. And then from then on, I just remember growing up with a mother who was so strong and independent. And, I would ask her all the time, like, how did you find yourself in this situation? And I decided to write a book about it, inspired by her courage to leave my biological father. And It Ends With Us, which is being filmed as a movie right now. And, beyond that memory at 2 years old, I have nothing but wonderful memories. She married my stepfather when I was 4, and they gave us a wonderful, happy life.
It Ends With Us is a book that it's been on the New York Times bestseller list for 111 weeks.
Same.
I've never really heard of anything like that, but it's a book that people really care about.
Yeah.
I think people that maybe have been in hard situations feel seen. So did you feel hesitant about putting it on the screen into the world and, in a way that people could judge?
I didn't feel hesitant because, reader feedback since the book released is, when are we going to see the movie? And so I knew how much readers wanted to see it. And I'm super excited for them to see it come to life on the screen. It's a little bittersweet, though, because, like you said, it's been on the New York Times for so long. But why? Because people resonate with it. And it's kind of a sad subject to resonate with. And people, read the book and then think, oh, I know someone who needs to read this. Yeah. And that's sad. But, it's been very heartwarming to read how much the book has helped people, and that my mother's story has actually given strength to other women to be able to leave their situations. Mm-hmm. And so while it's a wonderful thing that I'm excited to see on the screen, I also hope that it has the same effect that the book has had.
Mm-hmm. Your fans, the cohorts, cohos, they have multiple names, are wildly passionate about what you write, including having a lot of opinions about, what movie. Blake Lively's wearing, or Blake Lively. Right. Did that surprise you?
It does. It really does. Just because, like I was hoping, when we announced the movie that people would be excited about it. Didn't think that it would, spawn all these TikToks about it, and that people would be so passionate and angry about, some of the casting choices, some of the outfit choices. But, it's like, when I wrote the book, it wasn't about the age of the characters. It wasn't about what they were wearing. I don't even think I described any clothing in the book. It was about the message that I wanted to get across. And I think the people that are doing the movie are doing such a good job. The actors are doing a phenomenal job. And, the aging up of the characters was my fault. As an author, we make mistakes. And when I was writing the book, New Adult was really popular. And New Adult is college-age characters, and that was what I was contracted to write. And so when I was writing it as with us, I'm like, okay, so Lily needs to be like 24, so I don't want Raul to be too much older. He's a neurosurgeon. There's no 28-year-old neurosurgeons. You go to school for 15 years. And so to make corrections to what I messed up in the book, we aged the characters up somewhat. And you've seen a few outfits that Lily has worn, but she looks so phenomenal on screen. And some of the outfits that she's worn indoors that no one's gotten pictures of yet are phenomenal. So I love that there's discourse surrounding it. I do. I think that people are going to be very pleased. I am very pleased.
You think it's going to be awesome?
I do. Like, I went into it not knowing, because I got on set like 3 weeks after they started filming. And so I wasn't sure like what kind of content they had. And I got to watch all the footage that they had. And it's so good. It is so good. And I'm not saying that because it's mine. Like, I am probably the harshest critic of this content. And to see that they have captured the essence of the book and the importance of it is more than I could ask for. I think they're doing a phenomenal job.
We can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait. So I think one of the things that's so interesting about your rise and the success is it was unexpected.
Yeah.
You could probably never have predicted all of this.
Not at all.
And you don't want the fame. So how do you sort of protect your personal life, like keep it sacred and close to you while still getting to write, still getting to do your biggest joy?
It's been a challenge because I haven't been writing a lot, because with the rise of everything the past couple of years has come a lot more demands on my time. And so I'm trying to get back to like, how do I organize this? How do I balance everything? But I've always just put everything out there. I've had social media. I've been putting my kids on social media since before I became a writer. So for me, it's never been about, oh, let me promote my books on Instagram. It's always just, something fun happens and I share it. And so it's gotten to be challenging on, like, what can I still share without it affecting my family, who did not ask for any of this. My kids didn't ask for this, and they're not the type of people who want to be known at all. And so we're all learning to adjust, and we're still learning to adjust. But the readers just, I can't help but go online and still interact with them. And I love to have cohorts. It's our Facebook group. It's such a positive place. And I enjoy that part of it. And so I don't know that I'll ever be able to separate it completely. I'm just trying to find healthier ways to balance it.
Book Bonanza is wild.
So wild.
How would you explain it for somebody that's never been here?
Maybe if you've ever been to Disney World, Comic-Con, things like that, there's just such passion for books here. Everyone's here for this common love of reading, and they get to meet their favorite authors. The lines were insane this morning just to get the wristbands, and the signing hasn't even started yet, but it's phenomenal to see this many people show up and support, and it's fun for the authors because we're it's a lot of screen time where we're alone and writing our stories, and so to get to be in front of the readers who support that career is it's great.
This is a passion project for you and your sisters,
right?
Because it's a fundraiser that y'all have done since 2018. Yeah. So talk about what inspires it and how much money y'all have raised.
Well, we started in 2018 actually 2015 with our charity, which is called the Bookworm Box. And it's a 501c3 where we've donated almost $2 million to various charities. Every month we'd choose different charities. We've just always wanted to give back, and when we found ourselves in a position to do that collectively, we started working on that. Well, then we decided we wanted to add a signing to the mix, and we didn't expect it to become as big as it's become, but the signing itself, I believe, has raised almost $1 million since we started in 2018. We've donated to various charities, Safe House Denver. We built a school in Malawi with Build On. This year it's going to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and literacy foundations, and it's just something else positive that comes out of this community. Everyone always comes together and supports it, and we couldn't be more grateful.
Mm-hmm. And I know your sisters have been such an inspiration for you.
Absolutely.
Such a grounding force.
Yeah.
How has it been to work on this with them?
Wonderful. We're just, we get along so well. We're very close. My younger sister is our half sister, so she grew up in a different household, but my older sister was always very adamant that we spend time with her, and would make sure, even when my older sister was a teenager, she would coordinate flights to get my little sister, here. And so we've all grown up very close, even though we weren't in the same household. And getting to work with them on this is, it's just, my sisters are my best friends. My mother's my best friend. And so surrounding myself and having their support in this career, there's nothing like it. And then my little sister is also in the industry. She started designing my book covers and editing my books early on. And so we're all, all have a little part in it, and it's wonderful.
If you could have looked through a crystal ball and known that this is going to be your life, what would have happened?
I'd like to say I never would have written a book, because this terrifies me. Being on camera, being on stage, being in the public eye, it's like nothing that I was ever a goal of mine, but it's become a byproduct of writing the books, and that is my passion. I have absolutely no regrets, but I think I would have been too terrified, not knowing what was coming to see that. I would be like, nope, that's not the life I want. I'm going to continue to do social work forever. But, just getting to wake up every day and do what I love to do, and it's my career. And, I might be scared of some cameras and scared of interviews, but to see all the people that come out in support of this, I would do it every day if I had to.
You write about such intimate themes, hard themes. And so when readers read your book, they probably see themselves, sadly, in some of it. So what have they said to you? What has been some of the most touching things that readers have said about what you write?
I think just when they resonate with the material, it depends on which material they resonate with. But, I always say I write to entertain, not to educate or inform or anything. I get entertainment out of my writing, and that's my only goal with readers. I want them to feel entertained, but sometimes I make them cry, and I don't know if that's very entertaining. But seeing that these books that I write with no intentions have led people to make huge decisions in their life. Books really are life-changing. Mm-hmm. And the more I write, the more I realize that. And even as a reader, books are life-changing. It's not just a hobby. It's not just something you do as an escape. You can read something and not realize that you're going to connect to it on a level that that inspires you to leave your abusive situation. They're important. Books are important. We need to stop banning them.
Yeah. And I know that when you were little, you read Judy Blume.
Oh my gosh, I love Judy Blume.
And you got to meet her.
Yes, I did.
What, when you were young, did you see yourself in books? Did you find comfort and solace?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I read all the time. I remember our school library, I would check out a book and I would see my name on the library card like 3 times already because I feel like I'd been through every book in our library. Yeah, absolutely saw myself in it. Feel like I got a lot, you know, like it helped shape my personality. And Judy Blume was a huge part of that. So when I was at the Time 100 event, I got to meet her, and that was like the highlight of my career, I swear, just getting to tell her thank you. And so I try to remember that when we have these signings, like these people have that same feeling sometimes when they get to meet me after reading my books. And I don't think it really resonated how special that is until I got to meet Judy Blume.
Do you, when you think about sort of like what's next, because you've sort of reached this incredible goal. I mean, 5 of the books are on the New York Times bestseller list this week. That doesn't happen to writers.
Right.
When you think about what's next, what do you think about?
I just want to continue to write. I don't really have a goal at this point because it's like I've surpassed my goals, obviously, because I just wanted to write a book and I've written 25. But I still get so much enjoyment out of it. I just hope I can continue to do that. What's next for me is hopefully writing another book, a thriller, maybe getting some merchandise out there. We're launching some this fall, and I'm hoping, to get that in the hands of the readers because they've been asking for that and more books for me. And so I'm working on it.
Just one day at a time.
One day at a time.
One book at a time. What I really love about you, among many things, is that you've stayed so true to who you were before all of this. You still live in a small town that you grew up in. You're still best friends with all your high school friends.
Right.
Friends with your family is the most important.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
I've always heard that fame changes people. I feel like it exacerbates who you already are. And so I feel like back then who I was, someone who really wanted to give back and loved reading and, loved interacting with people. I feel like that's just on a bigger level now, like my life to me is still very much the same. I just am able to give back now through the charity and I'm able to hopefully help other authors in the way that so many authors helped me. And yeah, so it's very similar. Very similar. Very
Y'all
much
still go to Red Lobster to celebrate?
We do. Well, I mean, we live.
Yeah, you don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, Red Lobster's that's our jam. Yeah, we go there for birthdays and yeah.
I mean, booktok is a crazy part of your success.
Absolutely.
Talk about what it's done for you as a writer.
Not just for me.
Yeah.
So many writers. It's like every time an app comes about, you see like authors and everyone kind of gravitate toward it. But with booktok, it was different in the sense that it wasn't the authors. People ask me like, how did you get your books to go viral on TikTok? And I'm like, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It was readers. It was the bloggers, booktokers. I think what it was people trusted what other readers thought, and it wasn't like a commercial where authors were telling you, read my book.
Totally.
And I think that's what made booktok so different is it felt authentic and organic, and it made people excited to read.
I mean, I think writers, have to be vulnerable because you put your books out and there could be criticism. And you probably have had some criticism.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you take that? Does it hurt?
I've always handled that very well. I don't know. I think it's because I understand that it's an opinion, it's art. No one is going to be able to write a book that has 100% positive feedback. And so for me, I just have always put my focus in the people that do enjoy my writing because I know there are going to be people that don't enjoy my writing. And I try to thank my readers. I try to interact with them. And if people don't like what I write, I just try to avoid that. side of it. And, I don't go seeking that out in any way. I don't want to read it, but I get it, and it doesn't bother me at all. I feel like when you have 5 books on the bestsellers list, it's very hard to be upset in any way by criticism, because it's like, that people are out there enjoying your work, and I just keep my focus on that.
Mm-hmm. And they resonate for sure. I feel like you still have some sort of imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
You still, even with 5 books on the New York Times?
Absolutely. Yeah. I am my own worst critic. So I think that's why other people's criticism doesn't bother me, because what I say about my stuff is way worse than what they could ever say. I don't know. And I don't do a lot to try to combat that, because I feel like it makes me continue to want to try to do better and be better and write more inclusively. And, I just never want to get to the point where I feel like I'm as good as I can be, or that I'm doing a great job, because that's the point that scares me. Like, I want to continue to strive to make every book better than the one before it.
I mean, you've had such great mentors in your work.
Absolutely.
Including E.L. James,
Yeah.
Erica.
Yeah.
How has she helped you, and how does that inspire you to therefore mentor all of these writers that are here at Book Bonanza?
I've been very fortunate in that I got into the book world when E.L. James's books were starting to get really popular. And so we became friends way back then, and I was able to watch how she handled her criticism. And she handled it with such grace, and kept her readers first. Like, her readers are number one. She has always interacted with them, has never, felt like she got too famous to do any of that. And she's just very grounded. And so I've always looked to her, and she's been very supportive of other authors. When anyone has a release, she's out there being one of the first ones to share it with the world. And so she's taught us all, it's not a competition. No one is going to take over and have every single book be that person's book. Not at all.
I'm just kidding. I had to say that. I won't put that on the air. But I'm like, well.
But see, there's still so many others on there. But no, I mean, it's like, I want to do that as well. And I want to support my peers, and it's not a competition. And so Book Bonanza is a way to give back and do that. And we have, almost 200 authors here. And so I love that I was able to follow in the footsteps of some really great examples.
What's a perfect day for you?
A perfect day for me is being inspired to write, but that hardly happens. That's a rare day. So I would say just chilling at home and watching Bravo. I'm a huge Bravo Housewives fan. And I have a glass of Diet Pepsi, hanging with my kids. I'm just a homebody.
So tell me why you write.
I write because I have to. I think it's my therapy. It's what I enjoy doing. It feeds my soul. I think I would be writing whether anyone read what I wrote or not.
So sometimes you still sneak into your local Walmart and Target and sign books.
I do, yeah. It's really fun for me. And sometimes I'm scared to ask permission, so I'll do it sneakily. But last year at Book Bonanza, E.L. James and I we had to run some errands before Book Bonanza started. And so we went to Target together and decided to go on the book aisle and sign our books that were in stock. And we wanted someone to video it so we could put it on Instagram. And we asked this lady who was looking at books if she would record us signing books. And she was recording. And then she was like, "Is it okay that y'all are signing these random books?" And we're like, "Oh, we wrote them." And so she had no idea. And then she freaked out. So we got pictures with her, and she ended up buying some, but it was a fun time. But I try to do that anytime I stop in a bookstore.
Mm-hmm. And I know all of the indie bookstores that sell your books.
They're so great. They're so great. And I still, imposter syndrome, I'm scared to go in and be like, "Do you want me to sign my books?" I'm scared they're going to be like, "No, we don't sell very many of them."
And then you hear the opposite.
Yeah, they're great. They're so great. So anytime anyone ever sees me in a bookstore, I'm kind of shy, so maybe the bookstore staff should be like, hey, sign these books for us. I'll do it. I'm just scared to ask. So.
Okay, final question for real now. I've said it 17 times. If that little girl who was mad she didn't learn the whole alphabet on day 1 of kindergarten could know, if you could say one thing to her about what life is like now, what would you say?
You are going to be so happy. So happy.
You made me cry. Awesome.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.